Chapter 13, Snakes. Chet woke up on Saturday morning thinking about snakes. John Davies claimed that he had found a snake skin in the woods near the school, and Chet planned to one-up him. He wouldn't just find snake skin, he'd capture an actual snake. He knew just how he would do it too. He'd find a good long stick, then he'd look for places where snakes hang out, like in the brush or tall grass or something. And he'd poke around until he heard one move. He'd poke and poke and poke, standing at a distance, of course. He wasn't stupid. Until the snakes raised its head and hissed, or whatever snakes did, and as soon as it lifted up off the ground to attack him, he would snatch it by its tail so he wouldn't get bit, then grab it under the head as fast as possible with his other hand. He was quicker than a snake, that's for sure, and he wasn't scared either. Today would be the day. It was meant to be. His favorite thing about snakes was how they swallowed their prey with one giant gulp. People were afraid of snakes too, but that just showed how cowardly people were. Not Chet, though. At last year's field trip, he had held a boa constrictor without a second thought, even though Miss Bosch and the keeper of the reptile house, Mr. Frederick, said it could crush bones just by squeezing. "You're all cowards," Chet had announced to everyone in earshot, scared of a little snake. David Kistler crossed his arms. "Doesn't look little to me," he said. "Figures you'd be scared of it, Kistler," said Chet. "You can't even run 10 steps without dropping dead." David was a short kid with asthma who always carried an inhaler. Chet puffed out his chest and continued, "Besides, it won't hurt me. He knows who's boss." Chet's arms began to ache from the weight. He didn't let on. But he also didn't argue when Mr. Frederick reached over to return the snake to its tank. That was when the Valencia girl had raised her hand. She had a lot of nerve asking questions, Chet thought. When Mr. Frederick called on her, she asked, "Can snakes hear?" The class snickered, Chet included. David shot everyone a mean look and said, "Shut up, no one in particular." Everyone did, even Chet, but only because Mr. Frederick was about to start talking again. A kid the size of a first grader who sucked on an inhaler all the time sure had a lot of nerve shushing people, Chet thought. Mr. Frederick made a seesaw motion with his hand as if to say, so. "Excellent question," said Mr. Frederick. "Snakes don't have ears, but they can hear through vibrations in the skin. The vibrations travel to the inner ear, and that's how the snake hears the sound. It's not the same kind of sounds that you or I hear, though. Scientists aren't sure what it actually sounds like." Figures she would ask a question about ears when she didn't have any that worked, Chet thought. Then again, she probably wore those big hearing aids just to get extra attention. She didn't even try to hide them, which only proved his point. Plus, she spent Thursday afternoons in the resource room, which was way easier than regular class. On the other days of the week, the teachers wore microphones that worked with her hearing aids somehow. Talk about special treatment. And the teachers never called on her or asked her to come up to the board to solve problems unless she raised her hand. Meanwhile, they hounded Chet. "Come sit up front. Stop that. Leave that kid alone. Where's your homework?" This Valencia girl was nothing more than a con artist. Chet watched her as she eyed the boa constrictor. Maybe she used the hearing aids to tune into some other world. She was a witch. Or she practiced voodoo at home or something. Maybe she spoke to people and animals with her mind. There was something off about the whole thing. When the class filed out, Valencia stayed behind studying the snake, and no one even told her to move, not even Mr. Frederick. It was like she was invisible. That girl got away with everything.